Once upon a time, in a small town nestled among snow-covered hills, there lived a little boy named John. John loved animals more than anything in the world, and he lived with his parents with a tiny zoo in his backyard, filled with all sorts of wonderful creatures. One chilly December morning, just a few days before Christmas, John found a lost donkey wandering near his home. The donkey was shivering and seemed lonely. John, with his big heart, decided to take the donkey to his zoo, thinking it would be the perfect Christmas present for both the donkey and his other animals. At first, the animals in John's zoo were not impressed. They giggled and whispered amongst themselves, wondering why John would bring such a plain animal to their special zoo. After all, they had majestic lions, stripy zebras, and even colourful parrots. What could a simple donkey offer? But John loved the donkey just the same. He named him Dasher, after one of Santa's reindeer, and made a cosy little shelter for him. As Christmas approached, John had a wonderful idea. He decorated Dasher with jingle bells and a big red bow, and trained him to give rides to children. On Christmas Day, children from all over town came to John's zoo. They were delighted to see Dasher, the Christmas donkey, all dressed up and ready to give them rides. The other animals watched in surprise as the children laughed and played with Dasher, their eyes sparkling with joy. And so, dear listener, the animals in the zoo learned an important lesson. They realized that every creature is special in its own way. It doesn't matter if you're not the biggest or most colourful. What matters is how you make others feel. Dasher, the simple donkey, brought so much happiness to the children, proving that even the most ordinary animal can be extraordinary in the eyes of those who love them. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, remember that just like Dasher, you are special in your own unique way. Your kindness and love can bring joy to everyone around you, no matter how small you may feel. So close your eyes, dream of magical Christmas rides, and always believe in the magic within you. Once upon a time, in a frost-kissed forest, where the snowflakes danced like tiny stars, there lived a little robin. He had bright eyes, a cheerful red breast, and a song that could warm even the coldest day. This little robin loved to fly around the forest, meeting other birds and playing in the branches of the pine trees. One chilly morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, the little robin saw another robin perched on a branch. It wasn't just any robin. It was the most handsome robin he had ever seen. His feathers shone like polished copper, and his eyes sparkled like dewdrops in the morning light. The little robin was so enamored with the handsome robin that he was too scared to even chirp a hello. He would hide behind the branches, watching the handsome robin from afar, admiring his beauty. But as days passed, the little robin started to feel a twinge of jealousy. Why couldn't he be as handsome and perfect as that other robin? One day, while the little robin was sharing his feelings to his friends, they couldn't help but laugh. "Why don't you just go and talk to him?" chirped one of his friends. Encouraged by his friends, the little robin decided to muster all of his courage and finally speak to the handsome robin. He flew to the branch where the handsome robin always sat, his heart fluttering like his wings. But as he got closer, the little robin made a surprising discovery. The handsome robin wasn't a real bird at all. He was a beautiful Christmas decoration, shining brilliantly in the winter sun. And so, dear listener, the little robin learned an important lesson that day. He realized that it's easy to be enamored with what seems perfect from afar, but true beauty lies in being real and genuine. Just like the Christmas decoration, appearances can be deceiving, and what's truly important is the joy and love we share with others. Good night, little dreamer. As you snuggle under your warm blankets, remember that you, like the little robin, are beautiful just the way you are. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else, because your uniqueness is what makes you special. Sleep well, knowing that being real is the most beautiful thing of all. Once upon a time, in a winter wonderland, where each snowflake was like a tiny work of art, there lived a cheerful snowman. He had a carrot nose, a wide smile, and a heart full of dreams. This snowman had a special wish. He wanted to build a house of his own, a cozy place where he could invite his friends and share the joys of winter. However, the snowman had a little problem. he didn't know what to build his house from. He looked around and saw the trees with their sturdy trunks, the icicles hanging like glittering chandeliers, and the fluffy snow that covered the ground like a soft blanket. First, he tried to build his house from sticks, just like the birds do with their nests. But the sticks were too flimsy, and the house just wouldn't stay up. Then, he thought about using icicles, imagining a house that sparkled in the sun. But the icicles were too cold and started to melt when he touched them. Feeling a bit puzzled, the snowman sat down and watched the children playing in the snow. They were laughing and rolling big snowballs. That's when the snowman had a brilliant idea. He would build his house out of what he knew best: snow. With a happy heart, the snowman started rolling big snowballs, piling them up to make walls, and shaping smaller ones for windows and a door. He even added a chimney made of snow and decorated his house with pine cones and berries. The snowman's friends, from the rabbits to the owls, all came to see his new house. They were amazed at how beautiful and perfect it was. Inside, it was warm and inviting, with a fire burning in a small snow fireplace, and the snowman welcomed everyone with a big, jolly smile. And so, dear listener, the snowman learned that sometimes the best solution is the simplest one, and that using what you know and love can create the most wonderful things. He found joy in sharing his snowy home with his friends, showing that happiness grows when it's shared. Good night, little dreamer. As you cuddle in your bed, think of the snowman in his snowy house, surrounded by friends and laughter. Remember that sometimes the answers we seek are right in front of us, and that sharing and caring for others brings the greatest joy. Sleep well, dreaming of snowflakes and smiles. Once upon a time, in a town twinkling with festive lights and cheerful carols, there lived a young boy named Timmy. Timmy loved Christmas, especially the delicious treats that came with it. His favourites were candy canes, with their bright red and white stripes and a sweet peppermint flavour. As Christmas approached, Timmy's excitement grew, and so did his love for candy canes. He would have one for breakfast, 2 for lunch, and even more for dinner. His parents warned him, "Timmy, don't eat too many candy canes or you'll get a candy cane brain." But Timmy just laughed and continued munching on his favorite treat. One morning, Timmy woke up feeling a bit strange. His thoughts were all jumbled up, and when he tried to speak, his words came out in silly rhymes. Instead of saying, "Good morning," he said,
"Good garning. It's a warning, my head turning like a morning."
Timmy's parents were worried and took him to see Dr. Wise, the kindest doctor in town. Dr. Wise listened to Timmy's rhymes and chuckled.
"It seems you've got a case of candy cane brain,"
he said with a smile.
"Too many sweets can make your thoughts go round and round, just like the stripes on a candy cane."
The doctor advised Timmy to eat healthy food and take a break from candy canes for a while. Timmy was a bit sad, but decided to follow the doctor's advice. He started eating fruits, vegetables, and other nourishing foods. And slowly, his thoughts became clearer and he could speak normally again. As Christmas arrived, Timmy was feeling much better. He still loved candy canes, but he had learned to enjoy them in moderation. He realized that a balanced diet was important and that too much of anything, even something as delicious as candy canes, perhaps wasn't good. And so, dear listener, Timmy learned that it's okay to enjoy treats, but it's important to have them in moderation. Eating healthy foods keeps our bodies and minds strong and happy. And that's the best way to enjoy the festive season. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, remember Timmy's lesson about balance and moderation. Dream of a Christmas filled with joy, love, and a few candy canes, but also lots of healthy, yummy foods. May your sleep be as sweet and restful as a peaceful winter's night. Once upon a time, in a cozy little village, covered in blanket of snow, there lived a warm-hearted family. Every year, as Christmas approached, the family would pick out the biggest and most beautiful Christmas tree they could find. But this year, things were different. Due to a busy season, the family couldn't go to pick their tree until Christmas Eve. By the time they arrived at the tree lot, there was only one tree left. It was the smallest tree in the village, with a few sparse branches and a slightly crooked trunk. Despite its size, the family took the little tree home, deciding to make the best of it. As they decorated their small tree, the family felt a bit disheartened. They were used to having the grandest tree in the village, and this tiny tree seemed hardly noticeable. But the spirit of Christmas was strong in their hearts, and they decorated it with love, hanging every ornament with care. Word about the family's tiny Christmas tree spread through the village. The villagers, who cherished the family for their kindness and generosity, decided to come together to make the family's tree the brightest in the village. One by one, the neighbours arrived at the family's home, each bringing a special decoration. Twinkling lights, handmade ornaments, shimmering tinsel, and even a beautiful star for the top. Children from the village brought paper chains and snowflakes they had made, adding colour and cheer to the little tree. As the night fell, the family and the villagers gathered around the Christmas tree. When they switched on the lights, the tree transformed magically. It shone so bright and beautifully that it seemed to light up the whole village. The once small and unnoticed tree was now a symbol of unity and joy for the entire village. And so, dear listener, the family and the villagers learned that the true spirit of Christmas isn't about having the biggest tree or the most decorations. It's about coming together, sharing joy, and lighting up each other's lives. Good night, little dreamer. As you nestle into your bed, think of the little tree that brought a whole village together. Remember that even the smallest acts of kindness can bring the brightest light into our lives. Sleep peacefully, dreaming of sparkling lights and the warmth of community on this magical Christmas night. Once upon a time, in a mystical forest with ancient trees and sparkling streams, there lived a group of fairies. These fairies were not ordinary fairies. They were the guardians of light, responsible for bringing brightness and joy to the world during the darkest days of winter. Every year, as Christmas approached, the fairies would gather to perform a very special task. They would create tiny magical lights, each one filled with the warmth of their fairy magic. These lights weren't just ordinary lights. They were what we now call fairy lights. The process of making these lights was a beautiful sight to behold. The fairies would dance and flutter about, their wings shimmering in the moonlight. As they danced, they would collect tiny drops of dew from the leaves and turn them into sparkling lights. Each light was imbued with a special fairy glow, making them twinkle like stars in the night sky. Once the fairy lights were ready, the fairies would fly out of their forest, travelling to the nearby towns and villages. While the people slept, the fairies would gently drape these lights over the Christmas trees standing in homes, in the town square, and even in the smallest of cottages. On Christmas morning, when people woke up, they were greeted with a magical sight. Their trees were adorned with the most beautiful lights they had ever seen, twinkling and shimmering in a myriad of colours. The lights brought joy and wonder to everyone who saw them, filling their hearts with the magic of Christmas. The story of how these lights appeared spread throughout the land, and soon everyone knew that it was the work of the fairies. So in honour of the fairies' gift, people began to call these decorations fairy lights. And so, dear listener, the tradition of fairy lights on Christmas trees was born. It was a reminder of the magic that exists in the world and the joy that can be found even in the simplest of things. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes, imagine the fairies dancing under the moonlit sky, creating lights to brighten our world. Let their magic fill your dreams with light and happiness, reminding you that there is always a little bit of fairy magic around us, if only we believe in it. Once upon a time, in a quaint village covered in a blanket of glistening snow, there lived a little old man named Saint Nick. Saint Nick loved Christmas more than anything in the world. His eyes sparkled with joy at the thought of spreading cheer and happiness among the children of his village. Throughout the year, Saint Nick spent every moment he could making or buying gifts. His cozy cottage was filled with toys, books, candies, and all sorts of wonderful things. He would spend hours crafting toys in his workshop, his hands skillfully carving, painting, and assembling each one with love. As Christmas approached, Saint Nick's cottage overflowed with gifts. There were piles of teddy bears, stacks of storybooks, heaps of toy trains, and boxes of sweets. He was determined to make sure every child in the village received a special gift. On Christmas Eve, Saint Nick loaded his gifts onto a big, sturdy wagon. But there were so many presents that they couldn't all fit. He tried to push and pull, but no matter what he did, the wagon was just too full. Saint Nick sat down, feeling a bit disheartened. How could he deliver all of these gifts in time for Christmas morning? Just then, something magical happened. The air around Saint Nick began to shimmer, and a group of reindeer appeared, led by a reindeer with a nose so bright it lit up the snowy night. They came forward and gently nudged Saint Nick as if to say, "We're here to help." In that moment, Saint Nick transformed. His eyes twinkled brighter, his beard became whiter, and his heart filled with even more joy and love. He harnessed the reindeer to his wagon, which now seemed to have enough space for all the gifts. And with a hearty laugh, Saint Nick and his reindeer soared into the night sky, beginning a journey that would make him known to the world as Father Christmas. And so, dear listener, the story of how Saint Nick became Father Christmas was told throughout the village and beyond. His love for Christmas and his desire to bring joy to every child had turned him into a symbol of magic and spirit of Christmas. Good night, little dreamer. As you snuggle down into your bed, think of Saint Nick and his journey to becoming Father Christmas. Let his story fill your dreams with the magic of giving and the joy of Christmas. Remember, the greatest gift is sharing love and happiness with others. Sleep well, dreaming of reindeer, twinkling stars, and the jingle of sleigh bells in the frosty night air. Once upon a time, in a small town wrapped in the gentle hush of winter, there lived an old dog named Christmas. Christmas was a wise and kind-hearted dog, with a coat that shone like snow and eyes that sparkled with understanding. He didn't have a family of his own, but he had a big heart, full of love to give. Christmas lived in a cozy little nook near a shelter that took care of dogs who didn't have homes. He had been there for as long as anyone could remember. Every year, as Christmas approached, he would do something truly special. Throughout the year, Christmas would find toys, some old, some new, some discarded, but all full of potential joy. He would carefully clean them and keep them safe in his nook. Then, on Christmas Eve, he would gather all the toys and carry them to the shelter. With a wagging tail and a soft bark, Christmas would call the other dogs to come. The shelter dogs, young and old, would gather around, their eyes wide with wonder. One by one, Christmas would give each dog a toy. Even though he was old and the journey was tiring, Christmas never missed a single dog. The joy in the shelter was palpable. Tails wagged, playful barks filled the air, and even the quietest dogs would have a twinkle in their eye. For a moment, each dog in the shelter felt the warmth of a home, the love of a family, and the magic of Christmas. The people in the town came to know and love Christmas. They would often leave toys and treats for him, knowing that he would share them with his friends at the shelter. Christmas became a symbol of generosity and kindness, a reminder that the spirit of Christmas is about giving and sharing. And so, dear listener, the story of Christmas the dog spread far and wide. He taught everyone that the true essence of Christmas lies in spreading joy and kindness, especially to those who need it most. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes, think of Christmas, the dog, and his heart full of love. Let his story remind you that no matter how small, every act of kindness makes a big difference. Dream of a world where every creature feels loved and cared for. Just like the dogs at the shelter on a magical Christmas Eve. In a world of tasty treats and yummy eats lies a veggie that not many love to greet. Round and green, a curious sight, sprouts on the plate. Oh, what a fright! They sit on your plate, so small and stout, whispering softly,
Please, don't pout.
but one little bite, and you scrunch up your nose. "Ew, sprouts!" you cry, and away it goes. They're like tiny cabbages, not very cool. Not quite fitting the yummy food rule. At Christmas dinner, they're a guest unsought. Oh, those sprouts, they're so often thought. But wait, there's a secret, not known by all. A fact about sprouts that's quite a ball. For when you eat them, be ready to run. They make you toot. Oh, what fun! A toot here, a toot there. Laughter starts to spread. Who knew sprouts could be fun instead? So next time you see them, give a little hoot. For sprouts aren't that bad when they make you toot. So here's to the sprouts, green and small. Maybe they're not so bad after all. With a toot and a giggle, they bring some cheer. Ooh, sprouts? No, my plate is here. Once upon a time, in the magical land of the North Pole, where the northern lights painted the sky in brilliant colours, there lived a young reindeer named Mistletoe. Mistletoe had one big dream: to join Santa's famous sleigh team alongside the legendary reindeer like Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. Mistletoe would watch in awe as Santa's reindeer practiced their majestic flights, soaring through the starry skies with grace and speed. But no matter how hard Mistletoe tried, he just couldn't seem to fly. He would run as fast as he could, leap into the air, and then thud. Back to the snowy ground he would go. Poor Mistletoe felt disheartened, but he never gave up hope. He knew, in his heart, that he was meant to fly with Santa's team. Comet, one of Santa's reindeer, would often encourage him, saying,
Don't worry, Mistletoe. Sometimes magic happens when you least expect it.
On Christmas Eve, as Santa and his reindeer were getting ready to deliver presents to children all around the world, Mistletoe watched them with a mix of excitement and sadness. He wished more than anything to be up there in the sky with them. Just then, Mistletoe noticed something on the ground. It was a dropped Christmas present, forgotten in the rush. Without a second thought, Mistletoe picked up the present in his mouth and dashed towards Santa's sleigh, hoping to catch them before they left. As Mistletoe ran, something incredible happened. His hooves began to lift off the ground, and he was flying. Mistletoe soared through the sky, the present held tightly in his mouth. He caught up with Santa's sleigh, and Santa, with a hearty welcomed him aboard.
Thank you, Mistletoe,
Santa said.
You've saved Christmas for someone special. And with that brave heart of yours, you've earned your place on my team.
Mistletoe beamed with pride as he took his place beside Rudolph, Blitzen, and the others. And so, dear listener, Mistletoe learned that sometimes dreams come true in the most unexpected ways. His determination and kind heart led him to his dream, proving that you can achieve anything if you believe in yourself and never give up. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes, think of Mistletoe soaring through the Christmas sky. Remember that just like him, you too have the power to make your dreams come true. Sleep tight, dreaming of magical flights and the jingle of sleigh bells in the crisp winter night. Once upon a time, in the magical, snow-covered land of the North Pole, where elves hummed merry tunes and reindeer pranced with glee, a little-known secret was about to unfold. This secret was about someone very special, Santa Claus himself. Santa, known for his jolly laughter and generous spirit, had just finished his busiest night of the year, delivering gifts to children all around the world. After his long journey, he returned to the North Pole, feeling tired but happy, his heart filled with joy of spreading Christmas cheer. However, there was one small problem that Santa hadn't noticed during his busy night. After spending hours in his big warm boots, flying from country to country, his feet had become quite, well, smelly. When Santa finally took off his boots in his cozy living room, a funny smell filled the air. Mrs. Claus wrinkled her nose and chuckled. "Oh, Santa! Your feet are as smelly as reindeer after a long journey." The elves, who were busy sorting leftover presents, giggled and covered their noses. Even the reindeer peeked in through the window, amused by the unusual scent. Santa laughed heartedly, not a bit embarrassed.
It seems my feet have picked up the scent of my travels. From the sandy beaches to the snowy mountains, every step tells a story.
To help Santa, the elves quickly whipped up a magical foot bath filled with the refreshing scent of peppermint and pine. They added twinkling bubbles that danced and sparkled, turning the foot bath into a mini North Pole wonder. Santa dipped his feet into the bath, sighing in relief as the magical bubbles did their work. Slowly, the smelly scent was replaced with the fresh, invigorating aroma of the forest. The elves and Mrs. Claus gathered around, laughing and sharing stories of the night's adventures, whilst hanging Santa's socks by the fire. And so, dear listener, the story of Santa's smelly feet became a legendary tale at the North Pole. It was a reminder that even the most magical of us can have little imperfections, and that's perfectly okay. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes, think of Santa and his smelly adventure. Let it remind you that everyone, no matter how perfect they seem, has their own little quirks, and that's what makes life so interesting and fun. Sleep tight, dreaming of the laughter and joy at the North Pole, where even smelly feet can bring smiles and happiness. Once upon a time, as the snowflakes gently kissed the ground and the stars twinkled like diamonds in the night sky, a young girl named Jane sat curled up by the fireplace. It was New Year's Eve, a time of celebration and new beginnings. Jane's mummy was bustling around the house, preparing for the New Year's party. As she worked, she talked about her New Year's resolutions. "A new year, a new me," she exclaimed with a smile. "I'll start yoga. I'll eat healthier, read more books, and maybe even learn to paint." Jane listened intently, her brow furrowed in thought. The words "a new me" echoed in her mind. She began to worry. What did her mummy mean by that? Was she going to change? Would she still be the same loving, caring mummy that Jane knew and loved? The thought made Jane feel uneasy. She loved her mummy just the way she was. The way she took Jane in at night, read her stories, and made her laugh with silly jokes. The idea of her mummy changing into someone else filled Jane's heart with worry. On New Year's Day, Jane woke up feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. She watched her mummy closely, looking for any signs of change. But as the day went on, Jane noticed something. Her mummy was still her mummy. She still had the same warm smile, the same loving hug, and the same sparkle in her eyes when she looked at Jane. Jane realised that her mummy's resolutions weren't about changing who she was. They were about growing and trying new things, while still being the wonderful person she always had been. Jane's mummy explained, "Sweetheart, a new year is a chance to add new colour to our lives, but it doesn't mean we stop being who we are. I'll always be your mummy, and I'll always love you just the same." Feeling reassured and happy, Jane hugged her mummy tightly. She even decided to make her own New Year's resolution to try something new each month. Whether it was a new hobby, making a new friend, or learning something new at school. And so, dear listener, Jane learned that change doesn't mean losing who we are. It's about growing and adding new layers to our lives, like adding new stories to a beloved book. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, think of the new adventures that await you in the new year. Remember, like Jane, you can try new things and still be the wonderful you that you are. Sleep peacefully, dreaming of exciting possibilities that each new year brings. Happy New Year.